Greetings, Star Wars fans. We've got another video review for you today. This time we're taking a look at Anakin's Jedi Starfighter. This, of course, is the Starfighter seen in Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, with a different paint scheme, of course, used by Obi-Wan pursuing Jango Fett and then landing clandestinely on the surface of Geonosis. But this is a Delta 7 Aethersprite light interceptor, and this was a Clone War era starfighter used by the Jedi mainly. And it's a really cool looking ship. I like the paint scheme of it. And I picked it up yesterday at Toys R Us. I'd seen it a couple of weeks ago and passed it by. And I was down there again yesterday and saw it on the shelf. And I decided to go ahead and get it. And actually got a 10% in-store discount on it because the box was open. And the decals were missing, but everything else was intact. So I'm really excited about this. And of course, this is a retool and a remold of previous versions of this vehicle that were in scale with the 3.75-inch action figures. This one has been resized and is quite a bit smaller. So let's go ahead and take a look at the box and see what we got. And, you know, right off the bat, you see the cool artwork on the front. I really like that whole image that they're displaying there with the Starfighter in the foreground and then the Venator class attack cruiser behind it. That looks really cool. And, you know, maybe we'll see some Venator class ships used by the New Republic in Episode 8 or Episode 9. That would be really cool in addition to the Mon Cal warships. So the side panels are basically just a slimmed down version of that same image off the front of the box. And then the back of the packaging, you have your obligatory product shots, which say, "Buy me." So, right off of the bat, let's take a look inside and see what we got. Just a very simplified packing tray. And you have a single sheet of instructions that tell you how to apply the decals. There were 3 that went inside the cockpit. And then there were 2 marker decals that went on the ventral side of the Starfighter itself. So we see we have 1 concussion missile. And I'll try to angle the camera down. There we go. And we have the Starfighter itself. And the landing stud's already extended. And there you go. Again, it is really small, but it is a really cool looking ship. I love that yellow and gray color scheme. Now you may ask, why did I go with this particular model versus the previous versions, which were larger scale? Well, the only thing that turned me off to them was the fact that they had that whole gimmick where they split into 2 different vehicles, and I just don't go for stuff like that. You know, that's something for kids to play with and what have you. Yeah, it had some really cool looking cannons on the side of it when it was split apart. But, you know, other than that there was nothing there that was attractive to me as far as it being a Starfighter. This says a lot more to me as far as screen accuracy, you know, because it's just a single ship. Yeah, it's smaller, but still it serves its purpose for me. Right off of the bat, you know, it's only 13.5 inches long. 9 inches wide from wingtip to wingtip, and from the base of the table to the top of the vertical stabilizer is 3.3 inches. Now, if you guys are into customizing things and what have you, this presents some wonderful opportunities for some paint apps. So let's take a look at some of that right now. Right up front, you see the 2 primary laser cannons here and here. And of course, you know, they're molded gray plastic, but those could be painted, as well as adding some carbon scoring here. Carbon scoring for the concussion missile launcher. And there's 2 smaller laser cannons here and here, which could also, you know, possibly be repainted to stand out from the color scheme and put some carbon scoring there. And I think actually on the larger ship, there's blast marks along the hull of the ship, and this doesn't have that. As far as the concussion missile launcher, you simply take it and load it in like so. And you see here, just forward of the hinge of the cockpit, is a button that you depress, and it fires a concussion missile. And while I have it in this position, I really like how they have the Republic logo here, as well as back here behind the cockpit. And here you see the molded in R2 unit. His head will rotate 360 degrees. And back here you see the cockpit. I like the fact that the cockpit is darkened because, you know, as a starfighter, you know, out in space, you're going to have, you know, radiation to contend with, and then just there's no atmosphere to help reduce the overwhelming glare and just the blinding light of stars, you know, and having a darkened cockpit like that, that would be realistic. So the cockpit pops open, and you can see where the decals would have gone here on the heads-up display and the side panels. And you can see it's just drab gray plastic. And again, this presents some wonderful opportunities for some paint apps, like differentiating the color of the seat padding, and maybe some highlights here on the control, and in your flight computer back here in the rear, maybe some things of that nature. And then the cockpit just closes back down and locks into place securely, and I like that. On the rear, of course, drab gray plastic for the thrusters and that sort of thing. And again, that's some wonderful opportunity for some paint apps. On the bottom, you have two permanently affixed landing studs on the bottom of the engine nacelles. And then you have the forward landing stud, which retracts. And that's basically it. I mean, it's just a simple little starship. This was $22.99 in store. It's not really worth that, but I'm not going to argue with it because, you know, it is what it is, you know, and it's a great product, I think, for a Starfighter. Again, it wouldn't hurt to do some detailing to it, but overall, you know, it's a really good looking ship. And, you know, the Aethersprites were Interceptors. They were not hyperdrive capable, and they would have been the predecessors to like the A-Wings. These ships would have been used for combat air patrols, you know, within a planet's atmosphere. They would have been used for planetary, low orbital defense, system defense, doing long-range patrols around a star system, and screening, you know, a small strike group or even an entire fleet. These would have been out ahead of the main fighters like ARC 170s. And these starfighters are not space superiority starfighters like the 170s and the X-Wings are. These are designed to go head-to-head with other fighters. They are not designed to attack capital ships. I suppose they could, you know, make a strafing run on, say, the deflector shield generators, like on a Star Destroyer or something of that nature. However, that would be pushing it. The 170s were far more heavily shielded and armed to be able to take on capital ships, where these weren't. And, you know, with the lack of a hyperdrive, that could leave additional room for more fuel or, you know, survival supplies, or maybe even extra weapons. But this, you know, is just a very small starfighter, you know, designed to go head-to-head with other ships in its class. And primarily, you know, the kind of ship that the Aethersprite would go up against would be something like a V-Wing, especially after the Empire began to convert from the V-Wings to the TIE Fighter. They just don't have the shielding or the speed or the firepower of something much larger like a 170 or an X-Wing. You know, and we've seen scenes like in Return of the Jedi where A-Wings pair up and go after deflector shield generators on a Victory-class Star Destroyer. And, you know, potentially they could do that with their concussion missiles, but, you know, the amount of armament that these ships carry is so small that, you know, after 3 or 4 rounds of concussion missiles or proton torpedoes, whatever they're carrying, that's it. They're out. They'd have to fly back and reload. Whereas if they just use their laser cannons, they can continue to intercept and neutralize enemy fighters before they reach the main fleet. And, you know, too, this would be something that would be considered a reconnaissance type ship, because they could fly out ahead of a main force and scout the area and scan for enemy fighters or corvettes that may be hidden, or prowlers or something of that nature. So overall, it's a really great design. I like the ship, and maybe that's something that we might see brought back to use, in episode 8 or episode 9. Who knows? But anyway, there you go. There's the Delta 7 Aethersprite Light Interceptor. This is a Class 2 vehicle. I picked this up at Toys R Us for $22.99. I hope you guys have enjoyed the review. May the Force be with you.